Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the program, no matter where or when you are. The elite don't get it. Young men are getting crushed. Just last night, now many of you were not here in the United States. In some ways, lucky you. In other ways, sorry, you can't be us. But we just elected a Muslim socialist / Marxist to the mayor of New York City, one of the largest financial capitals of the world. And the left are kind of like the hard left are celebrating. The more moderate Democrats are kind of saying, we may have made a mistake here, because between open immigration and allowing some of these crazy policies to go through, they're losing control of their own party. And the right are arguing and fighting with themselves, because people like Nick Fuentes and others are gaining popularity, and the traditional old guard, like the Ben Shapiros and the Matt Walshes and the Ted Cruzes, etc., are losing ground quickly. And they're both fighting with each other. Everybody's fighting with everybody all over X today. If you'd like to keep up with my posts, by the way, you can follow me on X at Bachelor Joker. All one word, just Bachelor Joker. Well, I had a post, and I had put this up here because it is something that I'm noticing in the comments, and as some of this stuff goes viral. And I simply said, when I've questioned why young people vote for socialism, because I was surprised that a socialist won in New York City, replies here on X have said because young people are suffering and can't afford work and they can't afford rent, etc. And of course, I say, do young people not have any idea what comes with socialism? The suffering for them hasn't even started yet. And this has about 8,400 likes and about 1,000 people responded. But right here, this QE Infinity, they've got about 1,000 followers. They sum it up very well. They say they're suffering now. What do they have to lose? Just saying, I understand where they're coming from. Now, I don't want to so much get into the politics of this because it doesn't really matter. What I'm trying to get into is that young people are getting absolutely hammered. They're getting crushed, and they're miserable. And many of them decided to vote for Make America Great Again and vote for Trump, which is the conservative party, the new branding of the conservative party. And the other side said, well, I've gone Democrats before, but they're not doing enough for me. I want them to go further. I want them to grow teeth and bite into the jugular of the machine that is hurting young people. Now, of course, the left believe capitalism is evil. And the right believes, well, capitalism, the way it's being done today is bad because corporations aren't paying fair wages. They're hiring illegal immigrants and using H1B visas, instead of hiring young American workers. I know many, many young people that have reached out to me saying, dude, I did a video on how I think young people need to cut back on their expenses of $7 coffees and, buying Uber Eats for $40 a meal and scraping and saving and finding a way to get out of the debt that they're in. And a lot of people reached out to me and say, you don't understand, man. I have a 4-year degree. I work my butt off. I'm $30, $40, $50,000 in debt. I have a technical degree, but the only place that's hiring right now is like I can be a waiter or a barista or maybe work at Walmart as a stock boy. And I personally know of a couple of people that are going through those struggles that do have 4-year degrees in pretty good fields. You'd think they'd be able to find a job. And they're hoping to get part-time work for Christmas because right now they're unemployed. So I understand the conservative side of the coin saying, well, I don't want socialism. And I was kind of hoping that the Republicans getting into office would fix things. But the money printers are still going crazy, and we're still having all these free giveaways for people that don't deserve it. And even though now the border has been closed, a lot of people have been brought in, 30, 40 million of them by some accords, and have taken all of our jobs. And the tariffs are supposed to bring back the economy so that there's manufacturing here. Okay, if all that's happening, why is nothing changing for me? When you're my age, 3 or 4 years doesn't mean too much. I mean, you think about it, at my age, 5 years is 10% of my life, maybe 8% as I age, right? But when you're a young person and you're 20, 4 years is 20% of your life. It is a much bigger deal, you know? And so people are out there saying, hey, I got to have something done. I can't just keep waiting around while I can't pay my bills, while I can't get ahead. I'm never going to own a home. I'm never going to be able to invest in the stock market. I'm never going to make that first bit of money so I can actually become successful. And that's what people are fighting about, because right now the left is creeping towards Marxist, socialist, thinking that's going to be the right direction, which it isn't. I don't think there's much arguing about the history of socialism and how poorly it works. And in the meantime, the right is starting to drift away from the Ben Shapiros, the Ted Cruzes, the Mark Levines, the Matt Walshes, and they're moving over to people like Nick Fuentes. Now, if you're not familiar with Nick Fuentes, I'm not going to go into a rabbit hole on Nick Fuentes, but this is a guy that has very, very, very far-right leanings. He's anti-Israel. He's anti-Jewish. He's anti-many things. I won't list the whole list of them because YouTube will kick me off for just saying the words. And he's got some pretty bad takes on some things, but others, a lot of people said, you know something? Yeah, he has some bad takes, but at least he's saying we need to come first. This is our country. We were born here, raised here. I did all the right things. I was promised all these things. And I'm getting failed by this system because politicians want to jump on an airplane and go kiss a wall in Israel, or they want to give our money to Ukraine, or they want to give our money to NATO, or they have all these free government program giveaways to people that haven't worked in their lives or have come overseas and just show up on our shores and collect money from my tax dollars. I'm tired of this. It's why I can't get ahead. And so you've got these two groups, both left and right, that are saying, I am done with the system that we've inherited from the previous generations. And the people that are in power, whether it's a lot of politicians, most politicians, whether it's on the left or the right, both sides are saying, oh, whoa, we need to cast out these Nick Fuenteses. We need to cast out, let's see, who else? These Hassan Pikers. We need to cast out the Hassan Pikers. They're too aggressive. They're too outside the norm. They don't like the people we like. They don't support the programs we support. And young people today are saying, you've had your chance, old man. The system is failing and it is destroying us. We gave you an opportunity. And now the right, the far right that is, wants to go even more. Shut down all social programs. Let's get rid of all this stuff. If you're not born here, get out. And the left is saying, well, get in as many people as we can. We'll make a new coalition. We'll take over the country and we'll go socialism and Marxism. So both of those two groups are not understanding the plight and the problem of young people today, and they think they're going to whistle past the graveyard. And in the meantime, a monster is growing underneath the surface. And it is starting to break through, as we saw in the elections in New York. And granted, many of that was from foreigners voting for it. But the group that is very anti-foreign becoming in power in places like New York City is also growing under the surface. And at some point, I think it's all going to explode. I just typed in Nick Fuentes because I want to give you an example of what's going on, because Nick Fuentes was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. And literally the same day, Mark Levine, Ben Shapiro, many conservatives, some in our government, came out and they said, well, Tucker Carlson is now evil. Literally said evil. Conservatives calling Tucker Carlson evil. There's Nick Fuentes is evil. Then you have Brett Cooper. She's come out now kind of saying some of the same things that Nick Fuentes is saying, such as, hey, enough of this stuff with the other countries, enough with all the pandering to Israel. We need America first. And now she's in the mix. So now we have this big conservative back and forth war between well, you're too much of a groiper and you don't understand and we need to support Israel first. And then you've got other people on the conservative side saying, no, we're done with all this. You need to take care of the young people that are struggling and suffering. We're expiring out here. Like, we're not going to make it. And the traditional MAGA, Trump MAGA, and the left Democrats are not doing it anymore. And so both the left and the right are taking another step outward, away from the radical Democrats, away from what many might call the radical Make America Great Again and Trumpism, and they're moving even further away from each other. To give you a good example, now I'm not going to go down through everything that's happened with Mark Levine and Nick Fuentes, but I want to give you, I want you to see the number of likes on these posts to kind of show you how quickly people are moving into even more extreme camps, because young men, and yes, some women as well, but specifically young men, feel they're being disenfranchised by the system, because women, those women, the young women that are voting, they can get on the government dime. They can get some guy to knock them up. They can get on the government dime. They'll get a bailout. The young men can't get that. Women can rely on the government. Women can get these food stamps. Women can get all the programs. Men have a really hard time accessing the programs. So as everything goes into the crater, men have no safety valve. Men have no golden parachute. And so it's the men overwhelmingly that are saying, I need to get aggressive about this. We need to make some changes because I'm struggling. I'm hurting. Well, Mark Levin, or Levine, I'm not sure. I think he pronounces it Mark Levin. He's got a show. He's got 5 million followers. He's followed by many, many conservatives. I follow him just to keep up with his posts because he's a very pro-Israel conservative. And, you got to see what everybody thinks to try to get all sides of things. He says, LOL, looks like I got under prepubescent little Adolf's unpure quasi-white skin. His illiterate, incoherent brain farts exited the wrong end of his dwarf-like body. But he does have his committed following of groypers. He really should replace that funeral-like suit with a brown shirt like a good Nazi. As for deportation, given his mixed background, he would qualify for expulsion to a number of third world countries where he can crawl back into his little dark hole like the cockroach he is. Psycho bastard. Now, as I've said many times, when you just start hurling names and insults at somebody and you're not throwing together arguments and coherent thoughts and you're just insulting people, you've lost. You're admitting, I'm out of ideas. I don't have any more argument with you. I'm losing, so I'm just going to call you names, okay? Well, Mark, to that post, got 3,000 likes. And Nick Fuentes just replied with, are you okay? And he got 83,000 likes on that. That shows you that the old guard, the old establishment that wants to be Israel and America, and they want to keep the programs going, and we need to, let's not go too fast. We're like the Democrats, just pressing on the brake a little. We're a little slower. It shows you young people are done with that. And then for the Democrat side, we're going to support these things and we're going to do this, and we've got social programs, but also we need to, dance around this issue and dance around that. The left is saying, you're not going far enough, fast enough. Now we're going to go to straight Marxism. We're going to go to straight socialism. And so the sides are rapidly, just even in the last few months, are rapidly splitting apart to the point that now Ben Shapiro and, I know I've mentioned this already, but Ben Shapiro and these other people, Matt Walsh and others, are just coming out and they're blasting other conservatives. And the left is blasting itself. They're tearing at the bit to try to find out who is going to take control of this, of the parties. And the reason why they're doing it is because of young people. It's because the system is breaking down for the young people, and these established elites, whether it's in the government or the ones controlling money and the rest of the powers, they don't understand what the young people are going through. Now, I don't agree with a lot of the ways that young people are handling things, but who cares if I agree or not? I'm 50. I've been in the work world successfully for, 35 years. I've been able to get my bag a little bit. I've done okay for myself. But if you took me back to 20, 21, 22 and how hard I had it, and I was at least able to get dishwashing jobs and working at a gas station and other things. And back then, $7 an hour is probably like $15 an hour today. Young people are feeling lucky to be able to get a part-time job for $13 an hour just to try to, I don't know, put gas in their car to get to work while they live with mom and dad. And no one seems to be really paying attention. You know, Matt Walsh says, the sitting attorney general of Virginia, said he wants to watch the children of his political opponents get ended in their arms. That is worse than anything I've ever seen on the right say, by far. And yet that politician, the sitting attorney general of Virginia, still won the race. So you've got an attorney general, Jay Jones. He came out and he had these horrible things to say about his political opponents. And he basically said, you know what, I'd put a round in their head. I don't care if they're expired. If they're my political opponents, I'm done with them. And Matt Walsh is wringing his hands saying, this is awful. The Democrats just elected him into office, even though he said those awful things. And what's Matt isn't realizing is we're in a different era now. The hand-wringing over some awful tweets because young people said something in a chat room. The hand-wringing because a political opponent said, I would throw him off a cliff and bury him under 1,000,000 tons, and I don't care if he's expired tomorrow. There's no more hand-wringing over that. People have had enough. They want something to be done. And granted, they're both diametrically opposed to how to do that thing. And you've got a vast number of young people saying, hey, you know what? Harm and violence to our enemies is okay. We need to win this fight. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying that this is gonna end well. I'm not saying that this is going to better the country in any way. But what it's saying is young people have had enough of having the system. The money printers keep printing. The inflation keeps going. Now you can say, oh, it's down to 3 or 4% per year now, but it was 9% a couple years ago. And before that, it was 8%. And before that, it was 10%. And unless you have negative interest rates, it means now, compared to 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic, things are up 40 to 50% more expensive. And for young people just getting started, they're never going to catch up. They're never going to make it. And they realize that. And so what are they doing about this stuff? This is from Zero Hedge. I just want to read the headlines here and a couple things just to give you an idea of what's going on and why people are mentally breaking down. U.S. household debt hits a record $18.6 trillion as student loan defaults explode. People are just saying, I can't pay this anymore. I can't pay my student loan debt. I can't pay my car anymore. I can't barely afford rent anymore. I can't pay my credit cards anymore. I'm tapped out. If you look into this one, transition into delinquency. Do I have this image separately? I think I do. Yeah. Right here, transition into delinquency, 90 plus for student loan by age. Look at this. It was bad at 12%, roughly average. And then it fell down to nothing when Biden said, well, we're going to pay for it and we're going to suspend everything and we're going to give it to you for free. And then our Supreme Court said, yeah, actually, you can't buy voters like that. And where did it go? It skyrocketed. You've got young people, 10, 15, 20% of people that they just can't pay their school loans. You've got buying versus renting. Look at the pricing on this. Now, when I first became a renter, it was around 1990. And this says the average price of rent here, $225 was, you could rent someplace for $225 in 1990. Now, maybe that's with a roommate. Maybe that's including poor areas versus rich areas. I don't know. But housing, you could have a mortgage for about $900. That sounds right. I did buy a house in 2012, 2013. And that's when my mortgage was right around $1,000, which is about right. That's what it shows here on the chart. And yes, when I was renting prior to that, it was about $1,000 for rent. So this seems to track with what I experienced. Now, what do you have? To buy a home, it went from $1,000 as recently as 2014. And 2018 was $1,200. So in the course of 6 years, it went from $1,200 to have a house to $2,600, $2,700 to own a home. You can't save enough to catch up with that. Look at this peak. It jumped in just from 2022 to 2023, in 1 year, the house went from $1,500 to own to $2,700. That's $1,200 more in 1 year. And rent is just skyrocketing, but even that's $1,850 just to rent a place. Now this, and I should have probably reordered this, but this is the votes that went for Mamdani in New York. Women 18 to 9, because everybody was passing this around. They said, oh my God, women 18 to 29 went 84% for Mamdani, for the socialist Marxist. Yes, how do you overcome that? But in the same token, women 30 to 44 went for him by 65%. The women 45 to 64 and 65 plus, they went for Cuomo, just a regular moderate Democrat. What's the difference? They're all women. They're all feminists. They all believe the same thing. What's the difference? One is further left, and a lot of the younger people from 18 to 44 say, further left, man, we got to do more. Now, what about the men in the city? The men over the age of 45, mostly they were traditional conservative Democrat. That doesn't make sense. They were more traditional Democrat. Young men, 66% and 30 to 44, and 68%, 18 to 29, wanted Mamdani, a Marxist socialist. It's the young people. Young people are not able to make it. And so, again, on the right, they're saying, okay, seal the border, kick people out, no more free entitlement programs. We need to start, letting our fellow countries that rely on us, like Israel and NATO and Ukraine, let them rot on the vine. We need to shore up and be America first. And the left is doing the opposite. We just bring in socialism. I had a couple more things I'll go over, but I'll just leave it to this. This is an article by Newsweek.com from just a couple months ago. Gen Z has a debt problem. Gen Z are entering adulthood with more financial burdens than any previous generation, according to a new survey. A poll by Talk Research for Newsweek revealed that Gen Z, born 1997 to 2012, carries the highest average personal debt when compared to older counterparts. Now, how is that possible? The young generation don't own homes. They don't have mortgages. They don't have the fancy cars. They don't have, family credit card debt. What's going on? They're having to go into debt for groceries and rent and just to survive. Gen Z carries the highest average personal debt at $94,000, far above millennials at $59,000 and Gen Xers $53,000. Oh, also the student debt. The student debt is crushing young people. And that in and of itself is the fault of the government. By giving these school loans that you can't default on and declare bankruptcy, and you can't clear thanks to the government. Young people, and then the schools ratcheting up their prices beyond belief because now these loans are so available. You've got the government giving out money. Young people take it. They got to pay even more for these colleges, and then they can't default on the loan. So, of course, government's happy to give them as much as they need, and colleges are happy to charge them as much as they can. And in the meantime, the young person got absolutely destroyed. The data reflects a troubling reality. Younger adults are struggling under the weight of financial pressures. More than half, 52% of Gen Z respondents said debt is on their minds most or all of the time, making it hard to have worry-free moments. Economic reports, including recent findings from the New York Federal Reserve, confirm that Gen Z is falling behind on debt payments at increasing rates, with more than 90-day delinquencies at their highest level in 3 years. Some members of the young generation are moving out of the United States as a result of financial pressure. The 2024 expat report found that 45% of Gen Z expats left the country because they wanted lower cost of living. Now, I can go down through here and read all the metrics and read all the different, but that's not the point. The point is simply this. Capitalism is successful until government gets in and messes it all up. By subsidizing some things and punishing other things, by raising or lowering inflation rates, trying to control certain markets, by giving government handouts to certain production areas and penalizing others more. Tariffs is another way, and even though tariffs are at our current stage very good because we're trying to shore up manufacturing in the United States, tariffs can control these things. So people say they hate capitalism today, the left specifically, but even some people on the right are saying, look, capitalism isn't working. The problem is capitalism does work when it's not being interfered with by the government. And now we have the government giving free handouts, and they kept the border open, and the school loans and the government loans, and everything is getting screwed up because of the government, ironically, whether it's conservative government or a left-leaning Marxist socialist government. It's government getting in the way of letting business just do business. And now young people are saying, I'm never going to win this game. I'm never going to get ahead. And so in many cases, and there's another chart I didn't pull up, but young people are basically, at this point, they're running themselves into such high debt that they'll never get out of it. And then they're just walking away. They're not filing bankruptcy. They're just walking away. They're just saying, screw it. I'm done anyway. I'm going to rack up as much debt as I can, getting my education. I'm going to get myself together, and then I'm going to flee to the Philippines or I don't know, Central America or something or other. And I'll just let the debt rot. I can't do it anymore. There's a large number of young people doing this. Then you've got the other side that wants, tax the rich into the dirt and give the free giveaways. And again, I won't get into why that doesn't work and all the policies. I'm sure there are smarter people than I that can explain it to you. And part of me, and I did this in a video a few months ago, and a lot of you laid into me about it because I said, look, I see the number of people talking about ordering $20, $30, $40 DoorDashes. I couldn't afford to do that when I was your age. I was eating ramen noodles and ketchup sandwiches, which was literally bread with free ketchup packs from Wendy's squeezed onto it just to give it some flavor. I'd eat ketchup sandwiches. And now, if you're real lucky, you'd get to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That was high eating back in the day. We drank water. We ate ramen noodles at 28 cents a pack. And I made those sacrifices. But, and eventually I was able to dig myself out and I was able to get ahead. And so my argument's always to the young people, well, stop buying the $5 or $7 coffees. Stop getting the DoorDash. Stop doing all this stuff. And I think if they didn't do that, in my opinion, they'd be fine. But the argument from young people today is they say, yeah, but even if I do that, I'm still not going to win. Even if I do that, I'm never going to have a home. I'm never going to have a wife. I'm never going to have kids. I'm not going to make it. I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to dig out. Because even, as I've said, real world circumstances, I know people that have 4-year degrees that are struggling to find part-time Christmas work right now. 2 months to go to Christmas. I know those people. Know them by name. And so part of me just has to say, no, you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe the system of printing all this money and the bailouts in 2008 to the banks and the corrupt system that is what it is, maybe it's just finally become too much. And maybe that's why young people are just now saying, something, either we're going to go even farther left, farther right, and you're watching the left Democrats fight with the Marxists and the socialists, and now you're watching the conservatives fight with the Groypers and the anti-Israel crew and the far, far right, some of which are actually have some interesting arguments, and you can see some of it where you say, oh, it actually makes sense. And then they tend to go a little bit too far for even me, and I go, well, I don't know if I can agree with all that. But the point is, young people are hurting so badly. And nobody gets it. The politicians don't. The media doesn't get it. The social media influencers that are even 35 and 40 don't understand it. It's a revolution of the young people. I think it's going to get really bad because when you ask young people and they say, I'm fine with ending the life of my opponent if it means that my will be done, that I get my way. I think it was something like 60% of young people or 65% of young people think it's okay for taking out your political rival permanently, if you know what I'm saying. What happens when they just keep going? I don't know. It worries me. It worries me for the future of our country. The same thing's happening in the UK In many cases, it's happening in Germany. It's happening in Australia. And maybe they're not as vocal down there because they don't have free speech like we have in the United States. But I think there's an underrunning current of anger and frustration and fury by young people today. And they're saying, we've had enough and you're not listening to us. And now we're going to make you listen to us. And if you don't, we'll make sure you never win at politics again. I'll elect my enemy if it means you lose. Until you start listening to our needs, we're going to hold our votes, and we're going to hold you hostage, and you're not going to be able to do anything. And they're going to have to listen. If you'd like an interesting read and you'd like to see more about this battle, hop on X. Look, I know you may not be into social media, but X really is where the news is today. Because I see breaking news within 5 or 10 minutes of it happening. It might take 6 or 8 hours to make it to the mainstream. And even then, the mainstream usually doesn't report it accurately, nor do they tell you all the smaller battles that are occurring. But it's a fascinating battle that is occurring on X today because you've got conservatives at each other's throats, and you've got the left at each other's throats. And they're all destroying each other over who's going to control the future of our country. You've got the same struggles happening in other countries, whether it's the AfD in Germany, whether it's Le Pen's party, even though she can't run, the conservative, I don't know what they call the party over in France. It's going on in Australia. It's going on in the UK. It's all over the place. It's frightening. It's interesting. And I think it's going to get worse because the next step, I wasn't even thinking this till just now. The next step is AI. How many jobs is AI going to take from the young people? I mean, granted, it's going to take it from the older people too. But if I lose my job, I've got some savings. I've saved up a little bit of money. I have my home. I have my vehicles. I've kind of made it compared to young people. I'm on an easy street now, and I know I would struggle if AI took over everything. What would the young people do? Universal basic income? Just here's your money, and maybe this month you can buy, I don't know, this month you can buy food and clothing, and next month, if you scrimp on food and don't buy any clothing, you might be able to afford a couple of video games. Ugh, man, it's going to get bad. I don't know. I'm not trying to give you Debbie Downer type stuff today, but I do want you to understand, man, it's going to get dark. We are in a battle for the future. And it's global. And the young people, I think, are going to rise up. And I think they're going to take control by voting and by kicking out the old guard because they're just not extreme enough for them. I think they want blood. And I think they're going to get it. Guys, if you like my content, make sure to join me over at betterbachelor.locals.com. You can watch very fun events. It's $5 a month, by the way, or $50 for a year. You don't have to join for the full year. If you're not sure, you want to join thousands of other like-minded men in watching content, well, come on over and check it out. I think you'll really appreciate you did. Try it for $5. Just drop $5 in the kitty. Come on over, check it out. Tonight, we have got classic, underrated, nostalgic television. Yes, you saw what I did there. That's right. We will be watching, I'm not even going to spell it out. Classic, underrated, nostalgic television. That's tonight. And then, of course, on the weekends, we do football. We do UFC fight nights. We do movie nights where we just sit back. We have a couple of drinks. We snack. We talk about, we talk about the future of everything. We talk about problems. We talk about politics. We talk about living off grid. We talk about cooking. And we talk about our pets and what kind of animals we have. Like, it's just a great group of guys just trying to help each other make it through the world. That's what it really is. I think you guys would like it. So come on over, check it out. You'll be glad you did. I'll see you in the next one.